Hi, Sindre here, associate professor, and let's talk about the exam. So I get a lot of questions in all my courses, obviously, about the exam, what's going to be in the exam, that sort of things. But the thing I want to address today, which I also get a lot of questions about, is like the form of the exam. How does the system really works? Because the exam is digital and we're using a platform, at least at my university, called Inspera Assessment. And not every single student is familiar with that system, so it's a lot of stress and anxiety regarding, oh my god, how is it going to look like? So I thought we could just go through the different question types. I don't use all of them, but I'm going to go through every single question type that is currently available as I'm making this video. So let's just jump over to my web browser. So this is accessed, to web browser. I'm not really sure exactly how all of this looks like from a student's point of view, because I've never been a student using this system. I only see it from my perspective. But there is a preview button, which I haven't clicked, and we're just gonna go through that. There could be some differences, so I don't know for sure. We will just have to see. So the very beginning of the question set is optional, but I always have like a table of content, like an overview of all the questions. So here we have the table of content. It's not enabled by default, so maybe your professor doesn't want you to have an overview, but I like you to know what you are getting into at least. So here we have the question title and the question type. So I have made a question for every single question type, and the name here is just like the question type. So here you can see an index, how many questions there are 19 in total, so there are 19 different question types. So there are basically three categories of question types. You have questions that are not marked, so they don't contribute at all whatsoever to your grade. So these are they're technically regarded here as a question type by Inspera, but this is not really a question, it's more about providing you with information. The second category is automatic marking. And automatic marking means that is marked automatically. So the computer is just checking your answer and seeing if it's correct and give you points. So no effort whatsoever involved here by the professor or the lecturer. Of course, though, the lecturer is not a perfect being. So if they get it wrong, for instance, if they mark the incorrect answer as the correct answer, then they still can go in there and manually change the scoring. That is extremely tedious, so if you're a professor or lecturer, you should really avoid to make that kind of mistakes. But there are cases here where it's obvious that the student know how to answer or solve the issue at hand, the task at hand. They just didn't input the information correctly. So for instance, if the question is to provide calculate some kind of ratio, you could write that, let's say the answer is 42%. Are you supposed to write 42 or are you supposed to write 0.42? Only one of these can be correct. It's automatically marked. The computer will say that 0.42 is not the same as 42. But for a human being, we know that, okay, the student is trying to say 42%, even though they wrote like 0.42, which is like in decimal form. So if that happens, you can still go in there and manually mark the automatic marking questions. And finally here you have the manual marking or manually marked questions. So here a human being or also a sentient human being needs to go in here and apply their admittedly more subjective assessment to give you a score. So let's just go through them. So we have a progress bar here. This is also can be enabled, disabled, so you might not see this on every single question set. And then you have a navigation bar here that you can click back and forth. And you can also click around here if you want. And it's giving a warning here that I didn't answer anything, so that's fine. You shouldn't click around too much, I suppose. So this is called, what is this? Document. This is the question type document that is not marked. So usually this is used like a front page to give you information about the exam, basically informing you that, hey, you're not allowed to cheat, you have so and so many hours, if you have any questions, you can call this number, blah, blah, blah. So information from the power that be to you, the candidate, the student. So document is just about providing information. There's nothing going on there, nothing you can interact with. So that's usually the beginning of the exam, so you can just read that and move on. Then you have another question type here, which is not really a question, it's not marked, and that is a form. So for instance here, do you promise not to cheat on this exam? And you can click on different alternatives here, like yeah, sure. To live is to cheat, nope. But of course. Let's see, what's the most sarcastic here? Yeah, but of course. So you can move on here. So this doesn't give you any points, obviously. This is like just a form. Like for instance, if I want to know, okay, what's your gender? Or something, right? I want to get information from you, but not going to use that information to grade you. In that case, maybe I shouldn't ask about genders, in case, you know. So let's just move on here. Here we get the real first question. That's a multiple choice. I know that students have a tendency to label absolutely everything that has like predefined alternatives as a multiple choice. But in Inspera here, multiple choice means that you have predefined alternatives and only one of the alternatives is correct, and you can only select one alternative. So here's a question. Which of the following is the first letter of the alphabet? Is it C? Is it B, A, or D? So I clicked on C now. If I click on B, that will unselect C and select B instead. So no matter what I do here, I can only select one alternative. And that's like the defining characteristic here of the multiple choice. There can only be one selected alternative. So in terms of marking, like how do you get points there? Either you get 0 points if you select the incorrect answer, or you get full score. So there's nothing in between there. It's binary, either you get full score or you get nothing at all. If the lecturer really wants to, they could specify that, okay, you know, if you get incorrect, then you get negative points. They could do that. Technically, they could do that if they want, but the problem is that you cannot deselect. The moment you click on one alternative, it's too late. You cannot unselect it. So therefore, in my opinion, it would be really stupid to give penalty for incorrect answers on the multiple choice. So in my design, either 0 or full score. So A is the correct answer here. We're going to go to the next question. Here we have something similar, multiple response. Many students confused that multiple choice. Multiple choice and multiple response are two different things, okay? So in multiple response, you have again a set of predefined alternatives. In this case, there's 4 of them, but you can have as many alternatives as you want. But the difference between multiple choice and multiple response is that in the latter you can select as many alternatives as you want. So here, if I click on the first alternative, I can still click on the second without the first one being selected, so I can click on as many as I want here. No, there are multiple response has offered me a tremendous amount of challenges here in terms of how to grade that. Because if you don't have a penalty here on the incorrect alternatives, you can just click every single thing and get a full score no matter what. So there has to be penalty on these sort of questions. Technically, you can do it without penalty, but it doesn't make any sense, right? So in my design, I will always have penalty. But it's really unfair that one question affects like the rest of the exam, especially if you have many alternatives and the question itself is worth a lot of points. In that case, you can ruin the whole exam. So the way I do it, I cap it at 0. There's a floor at 0. You can never get less than 0 in my exam. So if you click more incorrect alternatives than correct, then you get a negative score, but then I overrule it, say, okay, you get 0. So here you can click on as many as you want. This is how it works. What's the question here? What's a vowel? You know, blah, blah, blah. You can click on it. Obviously, you won't have this check the answer button on the exam. I guess that's just for me. Next there we have something called text entry. Again, it's automatic marking. So the first letter of the alphabet is, so in multiple choice here, let's say I'll leave that. We have alternatives to choose from. Here I don't give you an alternative, so you need to think of it on your own. So here you have to write an A. And is that correct? Yes, this is correct. Is this case sensitive? I don't know actually. Let's try that out. A, does that work? Okay, so it's not case sensitive. But what happens if I write A and accidentally have a white space? If I click the space bar, you see there's not like a white space behind there. Will that work? I don't know. Let's see. Okay, that's still considered correct. What if it's a space bar? Oops, so white space and then A, will that work? Okay, that works too. Okay, so it's not too stupid, so it, but still, I guess you can mess up here. If the answer is carrots in plural, and you write this carrot, I will give you wrong then, maybe, I'm not sure. So text entry, you just write in a text there, the computer will see, okay, does the string you enter, does that match like the key? If yes, you get the points, otherwise you don't. So next question here, we have numeric entry. So the difference here, in the previous one you put in text, and this one you put in numbers. So that kind of begs the question here, would you be able to write in here like a number? Okay, you can do that. Okay, that's great, that's great. Huh. Who knew? So here, can you write in letters? No, you cannot, that's invalid input. So here you can only enter in numbers and the decimal separator and a minus if you want. So 2 plus 2, that is 4. So you can check the answer, that's correct. You can also write like minus a number if you want to, although that's the incorrect answer here. You can also write in here decimals, and the question is then, should you use the comma or the punctuation mark, like the full stop? Is it comma or is it full stop? That should be used as the decimal separator. So Inspera is, I think that's a Norwegian company, and in Norway we use comma as the decimal separator. But other places in the world, in the US, I think they use the full stop, the punctuation mark, and I guess it kind of varies from country to country. Well, luckily for us, the system is smart enough to understand that you can use either, so it doesn't matter. So 4.0, that works. How about 4, 0? So first I use punctuation mark, now I use the comma. Does that work? Yeah, it works. It will just automatically change comma to a full stop. So here it doesn't matter. You should, however, not use your 1000 separator. So 4, if you want to say 4 millions, it doesn't work. Do not use any 1000 separator. So that is the numeric entry. Pretty sweet. Numeric entry has to be the question that gives me the most grief. That and the multiple response. Multiple response, as I said, you have to have penalty, and that makes many students extremely angry. For numeric entry, I get like so many questions throughout the exam. Oh, am I using comma? Am I using full stop? Doesn't matter. So let's move on here. Next there, math entry. And this is a terrible question type. This doesn't work, okay? So this is horrendous. So type in the Pythagoras equation. So here you're supposed to write in like an equation, like math, like a squared plus b squared equals c squared. It works for that. So a, and then this caret sign and this sign, 2. Okay, nice. Let's see if I write plus. Oh no, we are still in the superscript. Let's see if I click the arrow key, then yeah, then I deselect the superscript. Let's see, plus b 2. Okay, let's see. There. Is that correct? That's correct. So the problem with math entry is that it is extremely clunky. It takes it's really tedious to type in any equations with this thing, this monstrosity. It's really fast to do with pen and paper. It just doesn't work here digitally. So you could, for instance, let's see, write / beta, I think, and it will automatically give you the beta, the Greek letter beta. You could do that. Let's say bar x, average value of x, mean x. So you can, to a certain extent, write LaTeX code, except it's not perfectly LaTeX code. It is overlapping with LaTeX, not doing exactly the same things. Some things are different, some things are similar. So for instance, if I want to write like a beta hat, like the hat sign of a beta, I can write / beta, but there is no way to create this hat symbol. So that's very easy to do in LaTeX, but you cannot do that with this. So I have contacted the people at Inspera, asked them about this. Hey, I teach regression analysis. I need to have this hat sign, right? it can't be done. Sorry. So it's helpful here to know a little bit of LaTeX, but I feel terrible to put that on the exam because you're not required to know LaTeX. What if you are not from an engineering discipline? That if you're from social science, for instance, where you probably don't use LaTeX that much, what do you do then? Well, you have this graphical user interface here, but it is extremely limited. This is extremely limited. In my opinion, math entry is a terrible question type, and it should be avoided at all costs. So, my exams, you're not gonna get that. So let's move on here. Yeah, I forgot to answer. Whatever. Then we have an inline choice. An inline choice is basically a multiple choice, just with a different graphical user interface. Instead of having an alternative listed beneath each other, you have this drop-down menu. And that is almost the only difference. This is one of the major differences here. So here's the question, which of the following is the first letter of the alphabet? Well, that would be A. Well, what if you are uncertain? Well, here it is actually possible to deselect, to not select anything. All right, so here you can deselect. I think it's B, right? And then I realized, I have no idea. I'm going to deselect my answer. So that you can do, but you couldn't really do that with the multiple choice. So over here, once you click on something, you're doomed. So one thing I forgot to say about these question types with these predefined alternatives, such as here, is that they are in a random order, right? So random order. So every time I refresh here, which I'm not going to do, but this order is going to change. And the order is not random, or it is random between every single candidate. So I once had an extremely angry student who sent me this complaint telling me that, hey, my alternatives were in a different order than the person sitting in front of me. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's by design, that's how it's supposed to be. And how do you know that's different from you and the person in front of you? Are you looking at the person? Are you admitting to me that you're cheating? Yeah, so different ordering here, so different ordering. Let's see. Yeah, that's inline choice. Then we have the true/false question. True/false is just a multiple choice. You could create a multiple choice and just remove, such that you have only two alternatives and then one true and one false. This one is just automatically creating a multiple choice question with two alternatives, true and false. Is the letter A a vowel? True or false? Once you click on something, you cannot deselect it. So this is just multiple choice again in disguise, exactly the same thing. So not much to say about there. Again, it's gonna be random order. So if I refresh this, then maybe true will be on the bottom. So random order, true and false, just switching around. Not much points when there's only two alternatives, but hey. Then we have the matching pairing. And this is essentially several different multiple choice questions which are stacked on top of each other. So the first row here will be one multiple choice question, with 4 different alternatives to select from. Once you click on this row, you cannot deselect it, but you can only select one. So if I click on one, the other one is deselected. So it is essentially just a multiple choice where the alternatives went from being listed vertically to being horizontally. But then you have another multiple choice right below it, but it's going to have the same alternatives, right? So in this case, 4 different multiple choice questions stacked on top of each other with the same list of alternatives. So how does this work? What is the position in the alphabet of each of the following letters? B will be the second letter, D will be 4th, A will be the 1st, and C will be, by the process of elimination here, that will be the 3rd. So you can just click around like this, right? So that's how it works. Oh no, I got it wrong. So yeah, it is essentially multiple choice, and here you need to be careful in this, because here again it's going to be a random order, as you see. So here is it's not A, B, C, D. It's like it's B, D, A, C, 4, 2, 1, 3. So it's always going to be in a random order, both the rows and the columns here. So for this question here, you could be really unlucky that it is, it goes A, B, C, D, and here it goes 1, 2, 4, 3. So almost perfectly sorted and ordered, but just one that is changed around. So it could be like very easy to miss out that, hey, it's not in the correct order as you would expect it. So that can happen, and it has happened. So when I have 500 students per year, there's always going to be that one student who got almost correct ordering here and then didn't see that some of them one was changed around. So that can happen. Okay, let's move on here to 9. This is the drag and drop. Put the cat in the box. Here's the box. Here's the cat. So cat is outside the box, and Marsha would very much like to be inside the box. There, Marsha is in the box now. Is that correct? Is correct. So this here is a picture with a label, and I think inside of it is like 1 pixel. It's like the centroid. And as long as that centroid is inside the box, you will get correct. So it doesn't matter if Marsha is a little bit outside. That is fine as long as that this 1 pixel is inside. At least that's how I think it works. I've tried it, trial and error, and that seems to be how it works. So if your professor is really bad at making this sort of question, it could be that the boxes are too small for the thing you're trying to put inside of it. But no, just keep in mind, it doesn't have to be perfectly inside, but always try to put it as inside as possible, right? So that's a cat in the box. She prefers to be there. Let's move on. This is a hotspot question. So here's a picture, and you're supposed to click at something. So where should the white queen be placed? When the chessboard is in its initial setup, I suppose. So click on white queen's initial position. So let's see, white queen. So white is at the bottom here, and the queen is in the middle, right? But is it D for delta or E for echo? It's D, of course. D for dronning, which is Norwegian for queen. So in Norwegian, it's very simple to remember. So here you have an unfair advantage if you are Norwegian. Check the answer. That's correct. So see, there's a box here. So as long as we are clicking inside that box, it doesn't matter exactly where I'm clicking. So be careful there that you don't misclick and end up like technically in another space like that if you click too fast. Okay, that actually worked. Okay. How far do I have to be? Okay, there I got it incorrect. So one further thing I wanted to say about this question and the previous one is that it's invisible boxes actually that is drawn here on top of a background picture. And it's very difficult actually because of the limitation of the graphical user interface for me to draw a box that is perfectly aligned with the chessboard here. So there's an invisible box here. Let's see. Now it's visible, the blue, and I have to draw that on top of D1 here. So as on the left there, you can see it's actually expanding a little bit into to C1. So that's something to keep in mind. And also the box can only be a square, rectangle. It cannot be like circular. So that's also going to be a limitation for when you make the questions. Let's see the next question here. Graphic match gap. So place the correct piece in E8 and D1 on the chessboard when the chessboard is in its initial setup. So D1, that would be the queen, right? So that would be over here. We know that's the queen. The white queen. Who's the white queen? That's not this one. Here it is. That's the white queen. And we're going to put her or they. We're going to put they over there. Then we also need to go to E8, so that's over there, and that will be the king of color. Let's see, that will be this one. They go over there, perfect. And these two, where are they supposed to go? Nowhere. They were distractors. You see here. So not only do you need to know that the queen goes on the D file, and king on the E file, but also need to know, okay, which one is the king and which one is the queen. So these are distractors, don't put them anywhere, they're just there to trick you. Let's see, so that's pretty nice, we got that correct too. Let's move on here. Then we have inline gap match, basically the same thing. So the first letter of the alphabet is, what's that going to be? It's going to be A, it's going to put that over there, very nice. The second letter of the alphabet is, I think that's the B. And the third letter, I forgot to put a space there between the and third. If this was a real exam, I would have like 50 complaints about, that this misspelling here made the question confusing. So therefore, I should lower the threshold for getting an A. I check the answer. That's correct. So that's basically the same as the previous one. The previous one like with the picture. This one is with text. And we're almost done. So this is the graphic text entry. And this one I don't like. I didn't get it to quite work. It wasn't possible to make the boxes, fit the grids here on the chessboard. So what we're supposed to do here, we're supposed to write in what type of piece goes here. So on B7, what's that? That's going to be a pawn. Fortunately, here, it's overlapping, going over to the next one here, so this is not great. But essentially, it's a picture. On top of that picture is a box, so we write in some text. So that's how it works. What do you have here? You have the rook. And what do you have here? Well, here you have the bishop. See, check answer. That's nice. So what happens if you misspell it? If you write a rook with a single O rather than double O, and then it's considered incorrect. So a computer is absolute in this regard. Like if you didn't spell it correct, then you don't get a point. So should you get a point for that? I mean, for me as a human being, it's obvious if a student writes ROK, that they're thinking about the rook, which is the correct answer. Obviously, they know the right answer. They just don't know how to spell. Should I be punished for that? And the answer to that is maybe, because the whole point of automatic marking is so I don't have to go through 250 candidates. So I don't want to sit here and manually go through all of them and check that no one misspelled or did something wrong, right? So I would, personally, I would not go through and check this. So that's why we have a system that you can complain about the grade. And if you complain about the grade, then yeah, sure, then we will probably let this slide. So next question here, we didn't answer, whatever. Now we are done with automatic marking, so now we are getting into manually marked questions. So here, explain the purpose of mountains, and here you can write in text. You can write Lorem Lipsum, Dolor Sit Amat, so you can write text here. You can also make a bullet point list, 1, 2, 3. You can also make a numerated list, A, B, C. What more can you do? You can make the text bold. You can make the text italic. You can underline it. You could take a subscript. And you could take a superscript like that. What's this doing? I have no idea what that is doing. Okay. You can paste things in here, text. I tried to paste in a table, like an image, a picture. That didn't work. So it's very limited what you can paste in here. So if you have written some text, I guess you could copy paste it in. It wouldn't work to copy paste in any images. You can make a table here. So this I really hate, these tables. If I make a table in Excel, I would like to just copy paste it over to Inspera, but that does not work. Here's a table. Can you merge two cells here? No, you cannot. So this is not great. You can put in here equations. Here we have different special characters that you can type in. Very limited. You can write in equations here, and again, this is extremely limited. You don't get to use LaTeX. You get to use something that looks like LaTeX, that is compiled incrementally. So you could write \beta here, for instance, and you have this graphical user interface that you can do a bit of different things. So this is basically just like the math entry we looked at before. So I'm not a big fan of this. And finally here, you can actually make a drawing. So insert drawing. So here it's like a limited version of Microsoft Paint. So here you could try to draw something nice to illustrate what you are talking about, like this. I'm gonna draw an elephant. Yeah, this is nice. This is nice. Look at this. Perfect. Work of art. Mwah. Save and close. So this is kind of a poor man's version of Microsoft Word. You can do a bit of different things in there. Very nice. So personally, I despise this question type. It's called essay because it's so limited. If I wanted you to actually use any of these things, I would not use this question type. I would instead use the next one, not the next one, sorry. We use this one, upload assignment. So upload assignment means that you use whatever you want and then you save it as some kind of in some kind of format and you upload it. So for instance, you could write your essay in a Word document where you can put in images and pictures, and you can use something a little more reasonable tool for writing out your equations. Or you can even write your whole thing, your answer in LaTeX and compile it and upload as a PDF. Limit here is of course just 1 GB, but that's usually sufficient. So this one will accept basically, I think most formats. I suppose there are some limitations here due to like your cybersecurity, that you don't try to hack us, I suppose. So there could be limitations there. I think it's also possible to restrict what type of documents you can upload, like that from the lecturer's point of view. So yeah, basically you just upload a document. So I would prefer to, personally I prefer to use the upload assignment rather than the essay question. I just feel like that is a better approach. Then you have the text area, which is an even more limited version. So here you can basically only write your letters A through Z, and your numbers, and maybe a few other things like underscore. So basically the things you can write in a notepad is essentially a notepad you have here. So that is for very, very short essay questions, I suppose. Next here, what do we have? We have programming. So for instance, write a Visual Basic Application subroutine named duck that creates a pop-up window that says quack. So this is not going to have any of these autocomplete things that you have in some IDEs. So here, this is again basically just like a notepad document, although there are like numbers there for which line you are in. So let's see, sub, something like this, doc, and sub. And if you know VBA, it will be coloring in different colors here, like blue. It's not going to do that here. Let's see. So here you just type in blah blah blah. SG box like this. Like this would be like the answer to this question. So you can write anything there. It does not complete. It doesn't actually run anything, so it doesn't know that this is code, I suppose. Next there, we're almost done. We have math working. This is just math entry again, except now you can have, add more rows, as many as you want. And again, this is extremely limited graphical user interface. You can click on different things, and you can do a little bit of, LaTeX-ish code. So for instance, consider the Pythagoras equation again, solve with respect to C. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This is manually marked. Let's see, and you're supposed to solve this. I suppose you can use something like this, like that. Now I need the square root. I could use the graphical interface there and find it. Let's see, where is it? I might be blind, I don't see it. Backslash sqrt, and that works. So c squared equals, why is this not going away? Backslash sqrt like that. Need another row. Can copy that. C equals. So something like that. This is math working, and I feel like this is pointless. There are so many signs and symbols that you need, at least in my courses, that it's not possible to create here. So the alternative here would be that I ask you to just upload a document. So for instance, the question could be derive the beta coefficients of an ordinary least square regression. And if I do that as a document upload, then hey, what's stopping you from just uploading my own lecture note, right, where we did that derivation? So this would be extremely pointless. So I don't see what the point here is. Finally, here we have 19, which is not like nothing you can interact with here. This is like an oral or a sketch. So if you had an oral exam, like physically, you're talking to me, you are presenting on something, like why do mountains exist? And then I would sit there and take notes and say, okay, you get 12 points out of 15. So when I'm grading you, like in the system in Inspera, then I use this to just type in, okay, person got 12 points. So there's nothing here for you to interact with. So that is all the 19 different question types. So we went through all of them. This is how all of them looks like. When it comes to how I give the points, that varies from lecturer to lecturer, and that is a completely different thing. So here I just want to show you what it looks like. So yeah, good luck with the exam.